say, how do we explain Rob? So actually met Rob last Startup Weekend here in Asheville, and Rob knows a lot about a lot of different things in technology. So we sort of met through I would call it right in the trenches, right? So that's how I actually know Rob Z from actually helping entrepreneurs here in Asheville, and then get a chance to meet up at Silicon Valley as well. And it's really inspiring to have sort of meet all the people that are sort of give so much back to the community, right? So Carol and Jim are also, and Rob will be also coaches throughout the weekend, right? So they could be doing any other thing, any other part of the world, and they're here for you, Carol, Jim, Rob. So Rob Z, coming up, Director of Platform Strategy for Mastery.
Woo!
Woo!
Hello, how you guys doing today?
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. How many of you are here with ideas that you're intending to try out at Startup Weekend? You came here with an idea in mind. Awesome. How many of you have ideas, but you're not going to pitch them because you're kind of afraid? Okay. I want to tell you something right now. This is true for every single one of you. Go to the next one, please. Your ideas are bad. Every single one of them are bad. You know why they're bad? Because you haven't tried them yet. That's why you're here, though. And I congratulate you for coming here to try your ideas out. Because all ideas are bad until you've proven otherwise, until they're proven to be good. If you don't prove them good, keep them in your mind, keep kind of, they're my special idea. I gotta get it right. I know it's gonna make me money. You start thinking about that, it's gonna make me money. It's gonna, next slide, please. You start gonna make you money. You start going ahead and everything. You're like, this is my special idea. I don't really want to share it with other people though, because they might steal it. But there's a couple of people I trust, and I tell them, and they say it's a good idea. In the echo chamber of my mind, it sounds so wonderful. It's such a good idea. You guys ever watch Mice and Men or read the book?
Yes.
You know what happens in that book with the mouse in Lenny's pocket? He kind of crushes it because he's petting it too much. Stroking it, soft fur, and falling in love with it. That's what's going to happen with this idea if you keep it in your head. You've got to get it out. You have to get it out of your head. And that's where you're here. So the folks who rose their hand and said, I've got ideas, I don't want to share it. Share your best ideas here. The ones you think are the real winners. Because the truth is, right now they suck. They're going to be great ideas if you can prove they're great ideas. And I know you've heard this before. Because you know the answer, it's the same thing everybody tells you. You got to execute on your idea, right? And so that's what you do. You start laying down codes. The first thing you're going to do when you come up here, you're going to say, I need developers, I need designers, because I'm just a business guy, and I got this great idea, and I know if I have the right team and the right folks, I can get this done. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start building that really cool page. And then when I build that cool page, I can get the database backed up. I'm going to get the data from somewhere. And I'm just going to build. That's a trap. You do need to execute, don't get me wrong. Execution is huge. It's really, really important. But you got to do the right kind of execution. I know this trap all too well because I'm an engineer. So what engineers do, I was a developer for 15 years, and I've seen this happen time and time again. You get this great idea, you want to start building it, and so that's the first thing you do, without bothering to think about anything else. But all products suck until you prove them otherwise. And the way that you prove them otherwise is through a little something called customer validation. It's not. So if you're just building a product for yourself, and you're trying to solve your own problem, because that's what an idea is. It's a solution to a problem. And if you're just trying to solve a problem for yourself, building something right now actually does work. You can do it. If this table is wobbly, and you want to fix that problem, your idea isn't going to put a shim of paper under there. Maybe you come up with a more permanent solution. You turn it over, you nail it to the bottom so it's permanently there. You fix that problem, you fix it for yourself, you're done. That problem is solved. But the second you start trying to build a business around your solution, you have to play to a wider audience. And you have to get that wider audience behind you. And the way you do that is with customer validation. I swear I practice these slides. You actually have to get out there and talk to customers and make sure that the solution you came up with not only will solve the problem you've identified, but that the problem is real to begin with.
Yeah.
The goal with customer validation, the goal of any company, is to build a sustainable product that customers will continue to use to solve their problems. Okay, so it's not just having a product that people might use and solve and so forth. They got to keep coming back. It's got to be something they can keep using, something that's actually useful for them. Because you find a lot of people build products and people show up for a while, they use them for a while, and they're gone. But the key word here, the word that I haven't talked about yet, but y'all have it on your mind, is sustainable. And what does sustainable mean? It means making money. If it doesn't sustain itself and the people working on the project, it's not a good product. And it's not going to work for you. You need to build something that's going to sustain itself and keep going and keep running and keep growing. So how do you do customer validation? The first step is to identify and really, truly understand your target customers. Who are these people you want to reach out to? Who are the folks you're trying to help? How do they want to be communicated with? Where do they hang out? What kind of products do they already currently use? Both competitor products and products that are complementary to what you're building. If you look at that information, you can start understanding, okay, so that's what makes them buy, those are the kind of things they're interested in, that's the language they speak, that's the visual language and the verbal language that they speak. Designers, you know what I'm talking about, this has been drilled in your head. You need to know your customers upside down, left and right. Once you get to know that, you need to make sure that the problem you've identified, you can actually articulate to those customers. You can actually say, here's the problem I've identified. Here's how I think it is. Can you tell me whether or not this is going to work or not? You need to actually be able to articulate that, put it into words. If you struggle with this piece, I'm going to argue that you either don't know your problem well enough or you don't actually have a problem. You have to be able to articulate it. You have to be able to do it in a sentence or two. And you have to be able to do it to everybody in this room and everybody you meet outside, and everybody you meet on the internet. Otherwise, you're not going to really truly understand the problem you're trying to solve. Once you've got those two down, you've got to go out and find those members. Go talk to them. Who here is neither a developer nor a designer? Tomorrow, wow, that's a lot of you. Tomorrow, your jobs, everybody who just rose your hand, I don't want to see you in this room. Because your job tonight is to identify the problem you're trying to solve and the target audience you're trying to go after. And then tomorrow morning, you're going to go out there and you're going to find those customers. And you're going to spend your day talking to those customers. And you're going to not just give them surveys. Surveys are a great way to talk to customers and get that information. The surveys aren't enough. You actually have to have conversations with them. Find out what they're struggling with. Find out what you can do to help them. And most importantly, find out whether or not your product is going to fix it. So once you've listened to what their problems are, what's going on with them, you've got to listen, listen, listen. It's all you're going to do is listen, listen, listen. And once you've listened to them and you've trained them, present them with your idea. You can talk about your idea if you don't have anything yet. Better yet, by, let's say, noon tomorrow, you should have some wireframes. Start showing off your wireframes. By 6 o'clock tomorrow, early Sunday morning, you might have something functional you can actually show or walk them through. Keep following up with these customers. When you go talk to people tomorrow, make sure you get their information and ask them, when's it a good time for me to come back and talk to you? Because you're going to need to come back and talk to them again and again and again. And you want to show them your progress. And you want to make sure you're on the right track. And you want to see whether or not what they're saying matches what you're hoping for. And what are you hoping for? What are you hoping they're going to say? That they're going to give you mad stats and donuts, you know? That's what you're hoping. There are 3 really important questions you need to ask once you've done your listening, once you've shown them the product, once you've walked them through everything. Are you willing to pay for this solution? Are you willing to pay for any solution for this product? How much are you willing to pay? High, low, give me a number, give me a range. What's it going to take for me to get something? What do you need to see for me to collect money from you today? I'm serious. I've done 12 startup weekends. Actually, this is my 12th startup weekend. The best teams I've seen have been ones that actually made money by Sunday night. Oh yeah. It's amazing. And you can do it. You don't necessarily have to collect the money, but you need to understand what are they willing to pay for. Now, when you're out there and you're talking to customers, you're going to get a lot of false validation, a lot of false signals. So what's not validation? Wow, that is a great product. I really like it. That's neat. Whoa, man, you guys are smart. That is cool. I can see how I might use it. I know some people that might use it too. That's cool. It's worthless. That is worthless information. You might use it. You will use it. And how much are you willing to pay to use it? Because again, we're talking about trying to validate and make something that's sustainable. Do not be afraid to ask for money because that's what makes it, that's what keeps going. That's what makes it sustainable. If they say, this is awesome, I don't think I'd use it, but I know some people who would, get names and numbers and call those people. Those are your next customers, and you're going to keep doing this over and over again. Those people that rose your hands, stay out of the designer and developer's ways this weekend. Come back, report back, tell them what you're working on, tell them what you're learning. Every lunch, every dinner, that's what you should be doing. But for the most part, you need to be talking to customers and making sure you guys are on the right track. And if you're not on the right track, you need to steer them back. First case is always free. How many of you are already thinking, you know what, we're going to have a free trial period for our product? Anyone? Anyone? No. 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 Right now, you are not in a free trial product. That is a marketing tactic. That is not a growth tactic. For a growth tactic, it needs to be sustainable. I keep saying this, money, money, money.
Say it, bro.
I know I'm greedy. I am greedy. I can't help it. I like the green. But again, it's not about getting the green and getting rich. It's about keeping this thing going, keeping it sustainable and making it build. They need to pay up front. Right now, you are in a validation stage. You are testing your idea. You are making sure it's going to work. If it doesn't work, you need to move on. And getting free, that's awesome. You get people coming on, they do the free trial, they try it for a while, they have nothing to lose. They try it, they go away. You make them pay for that privilege to try the cool thing that you're doing, for that awesome solution you're building for them. You make them pay, because that validates it. And if they're not willing to pay, find out why. Find out what they are willing to pay for, and use that information to inform your next information, your next move.
It costs $1,500 to Google Glass.
Say what?
$1,500 to Google Glass.
Yeah.
When it becomes a product, it's going to be like $500. But
Exactly. That's exactly right. And he self-selected $1,500 for Google Glass is what he said. And those people self-selected. But they also proved that they've got a market, a hungry market that actually wants to use it. Yeah, this is a great idea. I can see you're going to make a lot of money someday. I'd be more than willing to throw a couple $100,000 your way. That's the dream, right? Who here is hoping for VCs and angels to come knocking on their door? Here's, oh, I love it. Yeah, here, pull out the checkbook. Let's make this happen. No. First of all, you guys are in an area where I know it's not as VC rich. Now, I live in San Francisco. These are mostly myths, but there's all these stories about basically walking into a bar, talking to some poorly dressed dude at a bar and finding out that he's got a bunch of money, and the next thing you know, he's writing a check because he liked the idea you pitched him. That actually happens in some cases. You see a lot of money floating around, blah, blah, blah. That's not validation, because they're not your customers. And investors give you money for a variety of reasons. They want in early on some cool technology, or they really believe in you, and they want to kind of keep you in their pen, and when you fail, they want to be the first person you go back to so they can have something and say, hey, I got an idea for you. Why don't you work on this instead? I mean, there's all kinds of reasons that VCs and angels give money. And just because they give you money for your idea, just because they say it's a great idea, they're not your customers. So that's not really, it's not good validation. It's not working. And the winner of Startup Weekend is, no, that's not validation. Startup Weekend is awesome. The team who wins this weekend has done some amazing stuff. They will have built something that made the judges just go awe and say, this is the winner, this is perfect. Maybe it's because they had a fantastic demo. Maybe it's because they had the perfect pitch. Maybe it's because they paid off the judges. It could be any number of reasons
Follow the money.
that they would have won. That's right. But not necessarily because it's valid. Because the judges are not your customers. Now, they are looking at your customer validation as one of the things that they want to prove. but they're not necessarily customers. So if, God forbid on Sunday, you don't win, don't worry about it. Because if you're getting good customer validation, you actually have people saying they're willing to use your product. First of all, if you get really good people and they're like paying you money already by Sunday and you don't win, there's a problem. But, you know, if you're getting that and you don't win, no worries. Because you've won something else. You've won something that's sustainable and growing. And you've proved the idea, good. That's awesome. All right. You've gone through all this. And you failed. Your idea sucks. You can't find customers. They're not willing to pay. There's any number of reasons. Oh, this is so depressing. You know when this happens? I'm going to tell you when this happens. 7 o'clock Saturday night. That's when you sit down and you have the come to Jesus meeting where you say, oh, talk to all these people. Nobody's willing to give me money. They said it's not a great product. I can't get you to use it. Ugh. That's the best time of the night. I'll tell you why. Because that's when you get to pivot. Pivoting means taking that original idea and changing it so that it works. Because your idea has still not necessarily been proven bad. Maybe the way you were executing it, maybe the idea that you had. Okay, it's not perfect. You need to modify it. You need to pivot. And really, there's only 4 kind of pivots that I ever see in a startup weekend. First one is you got to change your business model. This is very, very common. So this is happening right now big time in the gaming industry. Back in the day, who here had like the original Nintendo? I had an Atari 2600, right? Okay.
Atari?
Atari.
You're dead to me. You're
You
dead
heard
to
me.
me. Amiga, man. Amiga all the way.
Please. It was way before Amiga. Amiga's the first one out. Anyway,
They're all $20 at garage sale, so whatever.
there you go. Back in the day, I used to pay, $30, $40, $50 for a game, and that was it. And that was all the money the publisher got out of it. And then maybe I'd go and buy Sims 2 and the Sims expansion for my wife, not me, no, seriously. No, all the expansions and all that kind of stuff. Well, now there's this thing, if you guys are gamers, anybody who's a gamer here, you know what DLC is, downloadable content. Y'all play like Farmville, and you gotta pay for your cows and pay for clicks and stuff. This is a huge new model for the gaming industry, and they are sucking it up. Because the gaming industry was suffering. They were suffering big time until they uncovered this new model that came about because of interconnectivity amongst all the different gaming consoles. Now, you can go out there and you can have this great game. The only way you can win it is if you buy something or download something. Candy Crush, anyone?
Yeah.
You know what Candy Crush is? It's bejeweled with candy.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all it is.
And it's addictive.
And it's freaking addictive.
Yeah.
Worth
And the
more
only
than
way-
BlackBerry.
Yes. And the only way that you can win it, and this is true, is by buying a bunch of stuff. You can just keep playing, but you're not going to win until you start buying stuff. You're going to run into the way. They figured that out, and they're making bank because of it. Massive change in their business model. It's saving the gaming industry, even though it's screwing all of us. Change your target market. The best example I can think of for this is actually Facebook. So Facebook started off primarily for Harvard campus and the university campuses. And the idea was, to hear Mark Zuckerberg talk about it was to get people to hook up. But it really was for people who are new to a college campus to be able to meet each other as a digital Facebook. That's what it means. That's what Facebook means. When they opened it to the wide world, what happened? You saw all of a sudden, everybody's using it, right? My father lives in Southern California. I live in Northern California. I see him a couple times a year. I have a 5-year-old son. Unfortunately, pretty much the only way he ever gets to see my son is by me sending photos through Facebook. He's on Facebook every day, all day, posting weird political stuff, posting funny things he's found in videos, posting all kinds of other weird stuff. He's 68 years old. Pretty far away from the original group of people they were targeting. And yet, and you can see they start to target, and yet it's growing, it's getting bigger. It just embedded itself in every aspect of our life. High school friends, family. I can connect to anybody. I'm going to connect probably with all of you by the end of this weekend because of Facebook. Big, big change. And that made Facebook go from to huge, taking over everything. Yeah, bypass MySpace, Friendster, they weren't the first ones out the door. That's a really important point. They were actually the 3rd or 4th ones out the door. Change your product. All right. I was originally going to do this thing where you know, it was going to be a tool that people would use. People would want to take the time to use my tool because they don't have the people to come in and do it. So I'm going to change from a tool to a service. I'm going to come in and I'm actually going to provide the people to use it. And I might still build my tool so that I will have my life made easier by it. So now I've gone from being a software as a service platform to an actual honest-to-goodness person service. That's a great way to change your product if you recognize those kinds of things in your customers. Classic example, Betty Crocker. You probably have heard this. It's been in every single MBA thing that's ever gone out there. So Betty Crocker, back in the 50s, they were trying to make it easier for women at home to be able to make fresh baked goods. And they wanted to make nice, homemade, fresh baked goods so that, you know, you're feeding your family and making them feel warm and comfortable. So they made it just add water mix for their cake. Didn't sell. They couldn't figure out why. So they went and did all of this research and they discovered that the idea of having powdered eggs in the mix made it feel very mechanical to them. They didn't like it. You can't call something home-baked and have powdered eggs in it. So the solution they came up with was require 2 eggs to be added. Take the powdered eggs out, require 2 eggs and water. Sold like hotcakes. That one small change. By changing their product, we saw the market for instant cakes go through. These days, I don't even know how to make a cake from scratch. As far as I'm concerned, you buy a box and you add 2 eggs. I mean, that's how it is. My wife's the same way. It was revelatory to me when I discovered that it was like just a handful of ingredients. So yeah, I mean, it changed everything. It changed the whole way of looking at things. All right.
My favorite.
This is the worst one.
It was the best one.
Sucks. Because you've got this baby, precious, beautiful idea. And to belabor the of mice and men analogy, you have to take it down to the river and shoot it in the back of the head. Kill your baby. You gotta kill your baby. Because you are way off the mark. You are so far off the mark that everything is wrong. This one happens at 6 p.m. on Saturday, and man, it screws everything up. I have seen people ripping their hair out for hours on this, trying to figure out, I got to start it. I saw it right here, in fact. Last year, there was a team that, by about 6 or 7 p.m. Saturday night, their whole idea was completely out the window. They had to start completely over. Now, they didn't do as good a job going out and talking to their customers, conversing with their customers, asking them questions, asking leading questions, following up, getting to know them, getting to understand their problems. This is the good news about starting over. If you get to that point, and you've done your customer validation properly, and you've actually had those conversations, you're going to have enough information that starting over, not that daunting. Because you know what the problems are. You know some proposed solutions. You've already been thinking them through. By the time you get to this point, no problem. You might have to throw out your code, you might have to throw out your design, you might have to throw out your business model and start over, but you can make it work. And in fact, failing over and over again is a great way. So go ahead and hit the next slide. It's a great way. Failing over and over again is a great way to get your ideas to eventually work for you. I guarantee you what you guys pitch tonight is not going to be the same thing that gets pitched Sunday evening. It's just not the way it works. I have never, ever seen an idea pitched Friday night that made its way to Sunday night.
You
Now,
weren't in Charlotte then.
sorry?
Charlotte, the Asheville team.
Yeah.
Yeah!
Really?
They pitched it Friday, and it was the same thing Sunday.
I'm amazed. All right. They're an amazing team. I mean, the chances are good you're going to walk in tonight, you're going to pitch your idea, come Sunday, talking to customers, talk to customers. Talk to customers. That's God. If there's one thing I'm leaving you with tonight, go out there and talk to customers tomorrow. Talk to your customers. By Sunday night, they've changed maybe a little bit here and a little bit there. It resembles very close to what was pitched Friday night, but it's not the same, and that's perfectly fine. Do not hang on to these ideas. Do not think that rattling them around in your head and hanging on to them, they have to be perfect, they have to be right. Don't think that. You've got to let them go. Your ideas need to work for you. You need to put them to the test. You need to get them running. And by Sunday night, you will win one way or another if you get your ideas tested and prove them to either be bad or good. Thank you very much. Yeah, one or two questions.
I had a question for you about the free services. What,
terms of something like Evernote, is something that I use fairly frequently, but they have like a threshold for payment. How do you address like the long-term efficacy of a business like that? I don't know how they're doing, but there seem to be a lot of services out there where it's free to a point. It's not necessarily giving it away, but it's if you want all the service, then you pay.
Do you need me to repeat that? You guys hear all that? Okay, so what he's asking is services like Evernote, what they'll do is it's free to a point. So I think that it's something like I get like a gig of space on Evernote if I use it. Evernote's a note-taking service, and so I can upload a bunch of stuff to it. But if I actually want to have more space, I think it's like up to 10 gigs or 20 gigs or something like that.
I don't think it's the space necessarily. I think it's just how many times you can sync a month or whatever.
Well, whatever. It's usage basically.
Yeah, it's
So
some
they're metering on
thing.
usage, right? And so the idea is that there's a period that's free, and then after you've gotten past that free period, it's paid. So what's their long-term growth strategy? But more importantly, like, why can't I do that? I think is a better question at this point. From a long-term growth strategy, that's marketing. Anytime you see free, it's just marketing. Okay? And what we're trying to talk about tonight is not marketing. You're too young to worry about real, honest to goodness, like long-term marketing. Right now you're worried about growth and testing. That's what matters. I don't want users so I can say, look at all the users I have. I want users who can come into me and bitch at me and tell me how terrible my product is and what I need to fix. And then when I fix it and they're like, that was awesome, now this other thing sucks, fix that. Those customers are your best customers because they're actually using the product. You're actually solving their issue. Now from a long-term standpoint, it's called the freemium is what they call that, right? So freemium means I start off free and then I have to pay a premium if I want to use more. It's actually a fantastic marketing strategy, post-launch growth strategy. It's great. It's worked for tons of people. And one of my former competitors, MailChimp, they actually are the ones who I think have been the most successful. They go to all these conferences and they show their kind of usage growth, and then they introduce their free for the first 10,000 emails or whatever, and it does this. They're like hockey sticks. It's amazing. And it worked for them, and they show that again and again and again. Because of that, a lot of people are jumping on board. It can work. You have to have a strategy around it to make it work. You can't just make something free and hope for the best. You've got to know what that cutoff is, what's going to be worth paying for, what are the drivers to go from free to premium. If you don't understand that, you're wasting money, you're wasting time. So I always say charge up front, and then use free as a way to get more people in, and then charge them later.
You said I'm too young for what?
What?
You said I'm too young for what?
Oh, I don't know what I said I'm too young for. I'm too young for a lot of things, probably.
The business is too young.
Oh, the business is too young. The business is too young for that. You guys, the business is too young for it.
Yeah.
Y'all are just the right age.
You mentioned the wire trap. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Wireframe.
Wireframes. Ah, okay.
I still have no idea what you're talking about.
No problem. So wireframe is, I'm basically, instead of so if I'm building a website, or even I'm building a book where I'm drawing a poster or whatever, I'm not drawing the whole poster. I'm just showing, here's a box, here's where this picture is going to go, here's another box, here's where some text is going to go, just to give me an idea of what it's going to look like when it's done.
Instead of copying, you're using chicken wire.
Rough draft, or an outline.
Yeah.
Sketch out.
The term comes from paper mache. Before I start laying down the paper, I have to build the frame out of wire, and then I start laying the stuff on. So you start building the form with wire, and then you lay everything else on top of it. Wire.
Thank you.
You bet.
Along the same lines.
Last question. Sorry, last
Users
question.
and free. Can you talk about two-sided market, where you want to get a lot of users in order to sell, say, advertising?
Woo! You know, I wrote a whole aside to talk about that because I knew that was going to come up. Question is two-sided market. So what that means is, let's say I've got something that I want to give away to users for free, and it's going to be paid for using, let's say, advertising. Okay, blogs work this way, newspapers use this model forever. Okay, if you can do it, do it. You have two masters to serve at that point. You've got your users, and you have to keep those users coming back. You've got to give them incentive to keep coming back. That doesn't involve them paying for something. And you can't annoy them with your ads. You've got to figure out a way to get the ads in there so it doesn't annoy them, but also that they actually question, they actually click on the ads and use the ads so that your real customers, the advertisers, are actually getting value. Because you are providing value for your customers no matter what. In that case, you have to split the value two ways, and that can get really tricky. There's a reason newspapers are going under. It's because their costs are through the roof, and they've relied so long on that model, and it's not that sustainable, because you got to serve two masters. And remember the old adage, if you're not paying for a product, you are the product. That's exactly right. So your customers become the product as well. And you got to make sure, and that's a much more difficult product for you to build because you can't control that. So you got to make sure you're thinking of those terms. If you can do it, do it. But I wouldn't rely on that as your sole business model. You got to find other ways to make money too. The advertising model is really tough.
All right, thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
So, it's all mine? All mine. Woo! Sweet. So, it's actually